Hello and welcome to the I've Seen Everything Reaction Wrap-Up podcast. Here is where I share my thoughts, reactions, and review for my latest reaction videos. To find these full reaction videos, please search for @SeenEverything over on YouTube, or check the description of this podcast for more information. Also, please remember to rate and comment on this episode, and follow the podcast so you can see when I'm putting out new wrap-ups. And now, on to my latest wrap-up for The Matrix Resurrections. Alright, watching Matrix Resurrections again. What did I think? Does this movie have its problems? Certainly. It definitely does. Do I think there were worthwhile things in this movie? Absolutely. And I'm hoping that this can be the start of something that can be satisfying and end well. I'd really like to have two more movies, a 5 and a 6, to complete a second trilogy. And I think they can take some of the seeds they planted here and do some interesting things with it. Some things that would actually make it worthwhile, not just coming back to the Matrix just for the sake of coming back to the Matrix. Coming back because you actually have a worthwhile story to tell. So, what was the problem with this movie? Like, what were the bad points? I would say, overwhelmingly for me, the biggest negative point that kept hitting consistently throughout the movie was that it just felt so disorganized. It felt like there was too much going on at once. Again, it's not to say you can't have a lot of things going on at one time and have it work. You have to decide what story you're trying to tell and make your decisions and make them clearly and put them out there for the audience to see in a way that they have time to see it, understand it, and have it resonate. Now, you don't want to linger on things too long necessarily, but I feel as though we spent too much time in exposition in this movie. There was too many different sequences where we were explaining things. It'd be better to try to find more ways to offer explanations more organically or visually, as opposed to sitting there and just telling people things. Like, part of this makes me wonder if Lana Wachowski intended this movie to be kind of a poison pill for the Matrix franchise. It's like, hey, I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to directly go at Warner Brothers, all this other kinds of stuff. I'm going to put jam all these things in there in a way that they'll be like, oh, that was left like in a mess, so we're just going to leave the Matrix franchise where it is. We're not going to go back and do anything else because we don't necessarily know how to pick up the threads from that and move on to do something. Probably not, but there was probably a little bit of it. I mean, the spite was written right into it. It's like you're watching a movie that's made by somebody who's angry to be making that movie, or who doesn't think that movie should have been made. It's a very different perspective, a very different position to find yourself in. I do have to believe at some point, though, that she said, okay, well, yeah, the movie shouldn't have been made. We should have left the things where they were. But now that we're making it, we're actually going to make a good movie. There were good points. Again, I love Jessica Henwick's character. I love the evolution from Zion to Io, and especially the evolution of what our side is as far as the humans. It's not just the humans, it's the humans and machines that are working together to create a peaceful world and a peaceful future together. But as far as like the interactions inside the Matrix, all the different places they went and things they did, it felt like too many things were just kind of jumbled up and thrown together. The flow of the movie just felt kind of clunky, you know what I mean? So basically to say, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the story. I think they should have found simpler ways to make clear what they were doing, to make clear who the villains were and why you should fear them. But also just, I feel like the whole movie, like an editor could go through the whole movie and just streamline it. Take out unnecessary exposition, streamline a lot of the interactions to not be as repetitive. You don't have to underline things so much. You could just take out the Merovingian altogether. You guys know how I feel about the Merovingian. But all that said, I do still think there are some very interesting things here about this franchise and the stories they tell, and this one, and how it particularly reflects modern society in a way, and our somewhat toxic and codependent relationship with technology. We see direct parallels here, and that's also the people he's dealing with that are in this version of the Matrix, is people who have that kind of relationship with it. This very real idea that you're not necessarily going to have the easiest time unplugging people, because maybe there's some people, even if they knew the truth, who don't want to be unplugged. Again, that's not necessarily out of the ordinary from the origins of this franchise. Cypher wanted to go back. I imagine you could have found other people that, especially once they realized the truth and realized how hard life was out in the real world, they'd be like, yeah, put me back in the Matrix. You could have found other people that would have been like that, I'm sure. So it was an interesting dynamic to explore. It was an interesting dynamic to explore the idea that he would take this entire history that he was trying to deal with inside himself, was being told was a paranoid delusion, and build it into an actual like video game in this world. Just so many ways of how they updated how they explored the world and the new doors they opened for the future. You didn't actually lose any anybody here. We leave with Neo and Trinity now in this new position of kind of ultimate power and freedom. So where do we go from here? How do we end whatever conflict remains here, where the humans and machines are against each other, or even the machines versus machines against each other? How do we resolve this in maybe the next movie or 2 movies? It'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping that the movies to come, if there's 2 more, will be a bit more streamlined than this one, obviously. We didn't get as much Carrie-Anne Moss in this one as I would have liked, but, the story didn't really allow for that. I do like the way they found to use the existing material as a part of this movie, like a diegetic in-canon part of this movie, because this game had been created. So in the universe, there's media created around what actually happened, so they could use that type of stuff. But I really wish there hadn't been so many callbacks to the original franchise just for the sake of callbacks. It's like at a certain point, it's nice to see those things. It's like, oh, I remember that, as nostalgic. But generally with legacy sequels or reboots, I feel like in order to really work, you really have to kind of lean more toward the idea of them working on their own. It's like, could somebody sit down and watch The Matrix Resurrections without having seen anything else and enjoy it and understand it? I don't know. I don't have that experience. But I do feel like when you do these type of things, that should be your goal. Like for me, the gold standard example of this kind of thing is usually Mad Max Fury Road. I had not seen the other Mad Max movies, and I went and watched Fury Road, and I understood it, and I enjoyed it. And Fury Road is still probably my favorite, because I didn't grow up watching the others. I went and watched them. They had a different feel to them. I could see why people liked them. I could see why they would have been popular when they came out. But I did not need to see them in order to enjoy Fury Road. That's kind of what I feel like you have to aim for with stuff like this. So we'll see. I don't know how strong a foundation this is. I wouldn't say this is my least favorite Matrix movie. As I said before, of the original trilogy, I'd say Reloaded was probably my least favorite. I don't necessarily think that this is lower than Reloaded for me. Maybe. I don't know. Hard to tell. But I still think it's a worthwhile entry. I wish it had been a little cleaner in certain parts and a little more streamlined. But that doesn't also, again, mean that it can't be a good seed for hopefully a worthwhile trilogy to grow out of, and to explore some ideas about, like I was talking about with the Second Renaissance, the human involvement in how all of this came to be and how we ended up here, and taking responsibility for that. I really would love for them to address that in some way, for the humans to know that history and take ownership of it. So we'll see where they go. I have enjoyed watching all of these Matrix movies with you. I am not sure where we're headed to next as of recording of this, but I enjoyed watching this one with you as well, and I will see you on the next video. Take care. Thanks so much for listening to the I've Seen Everything reaction wrap-up. Again, to find these full reaction videos, please search for @SeenEverything over on YouTube, or check the description of this podcast for more information. Also, please remember to rate and comment on this episode and follow the podcast so you can see when I'm putting out new wrap-ups. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll meet you here for the next episode.